Caring for a spouse with Alzheimer's is a journey of sacrifice, heartbreak, and unwavering love. And few know that road better than former Wisconsin Governor Martin Schreiber. After more than 60 years of marriage, he walked alongside his wife Elaine through every stage of the disease. He's written a beautiful book and here to share their story and the hope he wants to give to caregivers. Governor, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. And just to begin with the kindness and the graciousness that people have showed me thus far here, it's really sort of special. So thank you for all of that.
That's lovely of you to say. Thank you. And we're thrilled to have you. Your book was so touching, and I was sharing it with my wife. I would read her excerpts last night, and one moment you'd have me laughing, and then next, I guess it's taking care of an Alzheimer's patient. You go from tears to laughter to tears very quickly. You had a beautiful marriage, and then what happened? One day you started to see signs that your wife was losing memory?
Well, what happened was she was starting to get lost going to and from places she had been going to and from for the last 10 years. She was a wonderful cook, and sometimes she would mess up her recipes so badly that she would cry. And so that was the beginning of what I call the second Elaine. And as time went along, this wonderful woman became just simply another person. And one thing that really so stands out, and that is we met when we were freshmen in high school.
Oh, gosh.
And she supported me in everything that I did. If I would run for political office, she would be the hardest working campaigner. But if I would lose, she would never let me feel defeated. And therein lies the key word. We may lose, but we can never allow ourselves to feel defeated. And so it was those words that really helped carry me through all of this. And then we get to the point where we look towards the future, and it is so dire, so horrible. We just don't know how we can make the next move.
You were both frightened when these experiences started to happen, her memory loss, putting things in the wrong places. You were both full of fear at that point. What happens to a family when the knowledge of what's happening begins?
Well, you sort of like, I don't know, when I was a kid, we'd play blind man's bluff, you know, completely dark, and you just sort of feel your way along because you don't know what's going to be happening next. What I concluded was, if there's one thing worse than Alzheimer's, it's ignorance of the disease. And I was ignorant of the disease. I did not understand really what it is to be a person living with Alzheimer's. And when I wrote the book before I went to press, I found a series of notes and journals that Elaine had kept. And I want you to know that we had prayed together and we had cried together, but never did I understand what she was going through as an Alzheimer's person, and never did I understand how important I was as her lifeline. And caregivers have to understand they are a lifeline to their loved one, and because of that, they've got to take care of themselves. Alzheimer's, when Elaine was diagnosed, could not be cured or prevented. It can't be cured or prevented today. So rather than looking at the fact that there is no cure, we can make a determination of something very doable, and that is to determine that we are going to help our loved one live their best life possible. And how do we do that? By joining their world. As long as I tried to keep Elaine in my world and say it didn't happen on a Thursday, on a Friday, it wasn't the Smiths, it was at Jones's, no. Joining her world.
Okay, so there you mean, for instance, not correcting her or trying to prove that she's made a wrong statement, that type of thing?
Elaine asked me once, how are my parents? I said, they're both dead. No, they're not. I said, Elaine, they're both dead. When I saw the shock on her face, when she realized she didn't say goodbye to her parents, much less attend the funeral, I promised myself I would never put her through that again. And so then what happened was when she asked me again, I said, oh, they're fine. I said, your mom likes working at church. I said, your dad likes this. Oh, she said, that makes me feel so happy. Well, that's what I call therapeutic fibbing. But I wanted to let your viewers know I tried therapeutic fibbing the first year of marriage, and it didn't work so good. But then also you should know, and not everyone believes me on this, okay, but you know the story of Moses and the 10 Commandments in Mount Sinai? Well, I was there helping Moses bring those tablets down to the bottom of the mountain. And I said, Mo, first of all, if you're going to work with Moses, don't call him Mo. He hates it. So we got to the bottom, and I saw this big tablet, and of course the 10 Commandments, but on the other side was written, therapeutic fibbing is okay for Alzheimer's patients. So please understand that. It said, please understand that. So that joining the world of the person who now is so very important.
So it sounds like you learned a lot of lessons. And without being too hard on yourself, do you think you want people to know now there's mistakes you made that you can keep them from making? right?
Absolutely, and that is to find out about the disease, to know the importance of joining the world of the person who now is, and then to also make sure that, well, there's two Elaines, but there were also two Martys. Every caregiver has to understand if you're a caregiver and your name is Mary, there's going to be two Marys. If your name is Sam, there's going to be two Sams, because the second Marty had to understand the importance of asking for help. The first Marty, I can do it all by myself. The first Marty has to correct his wife for everything that she says wrong. The second Marty, no, we accept and we join their life. And if we can understand that we need to do a very compassionate mind change in order for us to be a better caregiver, and that is to just change the way that sometimes we always looked at things.
One of the most touching stories in your book, I thought, near the end, excuse me, there was a story about how your wife looked at you and essentially said, she began to weep a little bit because I think she was falling in love with you,
right,
and almost feeling bad for not being in love with her husband.
Well, what happened was we were having lunch and she started to cry. And I said, Elaine, why are you crying? Well, she says, I'm beginning to love you more than my husband. Well, here is what that means to me. It means that it is not necessary for my loved one to know my name in order for our hearts to touch. And I want to have caregivers and family of caregivers understand it is not necessary for them to know our name for hearts to touch. Hearts can touch by holding a hand, by giving a hug. Hearts can touch just by being together and watching the leaves blow across the lawn, or listening to a song or singing a song together. And so many times, well, it doesn't pay for me to go visit so-and-so because they don't know who I am. That's not right. That's not correct, because hearts can touch with that patient living with Alzheimer's.
Does the caregiver find themselves, I'll use terms like losing their temper or growing frustrated with the Alzheimer's patient unfairly?
Well, let me tell you something. It's what I call irrational irritability. You become so frustrated and so angry because every time you think you have it under control, you wake up the next morning and it's different and it's worse and it's more challenging. You try so hard. And so what, again, is so important is to understand that there has to be two people who are caregivers. The first Marty, but the second Marty has to be more compassionate in his understanding. And the second Marty has to realize, yes, there are going to be moments of frustration, and therefore it's so important to get help. To have the courage and to ask for help means you're not giving up. And I want to encourage caregivers to know they have to ask for help. They have to have the courage to ask for help because, again, we can't beat this disease, but what we can do is help our loved one live their best life possible. We do that by joining their world, but then also helping ourselves live our best life possible. You know, that decent sleep, decent diet, decent exercise, decent other social activities so that we get that break to give us strength to go back again.
Yeah, all the caregiving began to take a toll on your physical health, correct?
Oh my gosh, it was horrible. And what happened was my 40% of all caregivers die before their loved one due to stress-related illness, 40%. My children, in essence, had an intervention. And my daughter said, Dad, if you don't do something, you're going to be dead before Mom, and we don't want to lose both. But not only the physical challenges of health, but by gosh, a beefeater martini at 5 o'clock in the evening was sort of an answer to quell things, and maybe a second one at 6, and maybe a third one at 6:37. My daughter gave me an article on the benefits of moderate drinking, and it wasn't because I was drinking too little. It was a horrible kind of situation that, and so caregivers, understand caregivers, you have to take care of yourself because you don't want to die before your loved one. There's grandchildren, and there's children, and there's friends, and there's community people who are depending upon you to continue on in life, and you can't let this disease kill two people.
Yeah. Your book is filled with very sweet, poignant moments, but your concern for the caregiver really shines through. You're equally concerned about those giving the care, aren't you? And people should know this is a very encouraging book. I mean, you deal with the grit of Alzheimer's, but you really encourage families.
Well, I want to. I lived it almost 20 years. I know the pain. I know the hurt. I know the fact that I was grieving. I know that I had to deal with those things. And if I can do anything to help others who are on this journey, it's a wonderful feeling. because, again, it is such a great challenge to be an Alzheimer's caregiver, and it's all-consuming. It eats you up. And if you can step back and understand that okay, I'll just give you a quick, the two Martys. The first Marty, the doctor says one of the things you should be doing is going for a walk. So we're going for a walk. The first Marty gets a half-an-hour walk in. Elaine, we're walking. Elaine says, look at that beautiful flower. Come on, Elaine, we have to get this walk in. Well, that's the first Marty. The second Marty is smart enough to know, as a caregiver, we have to look and understand moments of joy. So if we're going for a walk, Elaine, look at that beautiful flower. Yes, let's look at that beautiful flower. And let's enjoy a flower like we've never enjoyed a flower before, or the hearing of a bird singing. And there are things that a caregiver can look for and attain in helping their loved one live their best life possible, clearly.
And that's good counsel for any husband and wife, isn't it? Enjoy those moments.
Well, anytime, you bet. Thank you.
I want to let people know you can find more of the governor, we'll call Marty's story, along with practical guidance for caregivers in this amazing book, My Two Elaines, Learning, Coping, and Surviving as an Alzheimer's Caregiver. I really encourage you to get it. It's a beautiful story, and it's got some very practical wisdom for people, families caregiving, and those with Alzheimer's. Governor,
My
it's a pleasure. An honor to have you here.
An honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.